Learning English doesn't have to feel like studying. It can feel like wandering through a city, getting lost, and collecting useful words along the way. If that sounds like your kind of vibe, hit that like button, subscribe for daily stories, and get ready to find out how I almost ended up sleeping on a bench in the middle of Trafalgar Square. It was supposed to be a simple day. I had arrived in London earlier in the afternoon and dropped my bags at a budget hotel that was, well, minimalist, to say the least. You know the type. Clean, safe, but not the kind of place you hang out in. I wasn't planning to be indoors anyway. I had a list of things to see, places to wander, and fish and chips to eat. After walking through Covent Garden, snapping a few photos around Soho, and stopping by a tiny bookstore near Leicester Square, I found myself in Trafalgar Square just as the sky was turning that perfect late evening color, somewhere between golden and gray. The fountains were glowing, the National Gallery looked grand behind me, and people were gathered around, playing music, eating snacks, and just sitting on the wide stone steps like they had nowhere else to be. I sat down near one of the fountains and pulled out a sandwich I had picked up earlier. It was quiet in a busy sort of way. A mix of languages floated through the air. Pigeons strutted like they owned the square. A kid dropped his ice cream and didn't cry. It was oddly peaceful. The thing is, I stayed there too long. Time passed without me really noticing. I didn't wear a watch, and my phone had been on low battery since the afternoon. I'd turned it off to save power, thinking I'd just turn it back on later when I needed directions back to the hotel. Later came faster than expected. By the time I decided to get up, the crowd had started to thin out. The street performers packed up. The sky turned fully dark. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Dead. Completely. No signal. No battery. Nothing. I patted my other pockets. No charger. No power bank. The little hotel I'd booked? I couldn't even remember its name, only that it had something within in the title and was near a street with 2 pubs and a kebab shop. Very specific, I know. I didn't panic right away. I thought, okay, I'll just find a cafe or a late-night shop. Someone will let me plug in for 5 minutes. But the shops were closing. One after another, shutters rolled down and lights flicked off. The cafes were done for the night. Even the pub nearby told me, politely but firmly, that their plugs weren't for public use. That's when I started to feel it. The mix of tired legs, fading adrenaline, and a brain that was starting to go into survival mode. I wandered around the square again, sat down, looked around at the benches, and honestly, for a second, just a second, I thought, could I sleep here? It wasn't freezing. There were other people still milling about. One guy was sketching something in a notebook. A group of tourists sat eating chips from paper trays. It didn't seem unsafe, just strange. I considered curling up on the bench and just waiting for daylight. Maybe my memory would work better after some rest. Or maybe a phone store would open in the morning and I could charge up. But then something clicked. I remembered I had scribbled the name of the hotel in a notebook earlier when I was doing my planning. I dug through my bag and found it, folded between a receipt and a map. There it was, the name and a rough direction written in bad handwriting. I unfolded the paper, started walking based on memory and instinct, and after a few wrong turns, and one alley that I definitely should not have entered, I saw a sign glowing ahead, Cambridge Inn. That was it. I almost laughed out loud. The lobby was empty, the night manager half asleep behind the desk, but I was never so happy to be handed a plastic room key in my life. I plugged in my phone, lay down on the thin bed, and just stared at the ceiling for a while. Later, I thought about how much I had used my English that night, reading signs, scanning menus, asking politely if I could charge my phone, following instructions from strangers, even figuring out the difference between a close street and a lane on a map. It was a quiet crash course in real-world language, not the kind from a classroom, but the kind that sticks. If you enjoyed that story, you probably picked up more English than you even realized. That's the magic of learning through experience. No boring rules, just real-life stuff you'll remember. So hit that subscribe button, give this video a like if it helped you, and drop a comment. Have you ever felt completely lost, but figured it out anyway? I want to hear how you handled it. We're dropping new stories every single day, so stay tuned.